Hey everyone, breaking down the 6-game early slate for Wednesday, June 4th. If you're looking for the main night slate, we're going to have a video out for you a little bit later on here covering that one as well. But for now, just this 6-game early one, and pitching is quite devoid of really anything interesting. So it's going to make for a really intriguing offensive bats game. Weather-wise, pay attention to the New York Mets-Washington game. It's looking really ugly. You can see by the timestamp. I'm recording this the night before, but right now it's looking like 70 to 80% chance of rain from noon all the way through evening time. So I'm not sure if they're even going to try to get this game in. But yeah, so just pay attention to that as we get a little bit closer to lock. Yeah, I mean, let's just get started. So Nola and Blanco, these are your two highest price salary guys. We'll just put in here high salary. Far more expensive than everybody else. Nola and Blanco are 10.5 and 10.7 respectively, and then nobody in the 9K range until you get down to Nick Pivetta. Do you jam these guys in? No, I'm not going to be jamming both of these guys in. Do I want at least one of them? Maybe, probably, because it gets really, really ugly really quick. You can see that Severino and Hicks at just a 20% K percentage. Pretty average. Actually, they're above average. They're above average on this slate compared to everybody else because it is so bad in terms of pitching. So you're probably going to want at least one of these guys. I'm going to take Nola over Blanco. Nola over the past month just has far better numbers. Over the course of the season, they're pretty even, but Nola has been much better over the past month. Very similar matchups. Nola's facing off against Milwaukee, I believe. Yes, and Blanco is facing off against St. Louis. St. Louis's offense is starting to come around. Milwaukee's kind of, come back to earth a little bit. They were elevated by that absurd 370 BABIP for a while, but they're pretty even offensively over the past few weeks. So I'm going to take the guy with bigger upside and better numbers, who's also cheaper, if I was going to be picking one of these two pitchers. Is Blanco a fade? No, but I mean, am I super excited to be paying 10.7K for him in this matchup? Also no. Jumping now into the mid-tier, Nick Pivetta somehow has a 30% strikeout rate on the season. He's been all or nothing. We talk about Nola being a boomer bust kind of pitcher. Pivetta has been that this season in terms of strikeouts. So 30% strikeout rate looks very elite, but it's not consistent from start to start. You can see he's got a 9, 3, 8, 8, 1, 3, 10. Which Nick Pivetta is going to show up? Who knows? He is facing off against Atlanta. Really struggled against them, even though he was able to muster up. Nope, just kidding. He was only able to get 1 strikeout against them. 4 innings pitched, 5 earned runs against. It was ugly. He's at home, Fenway. Atlanta is without Acuna. Man. Ownership is kind of like a side tangent here. Ownership, I think, is going to be really, really unpredictable almost, because do you want to play a pitcher who is facing off against Atlanta in a hitter's park? No, not really. Do you want to play a 10,700 Blanco, who is essentially the guy right above him in terms of salary? Also, no, not really. Do you want to play pitchers who have sub 20% K rate? No, not really. Do you want to play Coors? No, not really. Do you want to play games that are in weather concerns with the Mets in Washington? No, not really. So, where do you go for pitching? You can't jam in both of these top guys because with how much bad pitching there are so many bats that I want to have in my lineup, and I'm just not able to afford Cincinnati and Philadelphia and Colorado with getting these top guys here. So I don't know where ownership's going to be shaking out. It's going to be really intriguing, really intriguing. Also, side note, how you guys liking the chart over here? Is this helpful at all? I had a little bit of extra time, and it was a smaller slate, so I decided to go through and add this in from salary, highest to lowest. strikeout, walk, xFIP, which is kind of like their ERA, and then their hard hit rate. So it's just a nice quick reference. You can see, the bottom half is real dicey. Mikolas may be the only guy to have a little bit of interest in. Higher strikeout rate than everybody else, lower walk rate, lower xFIP. Hard hit rate is a touch lower. But yeah. So Pivetta, 30% strikeout rate, highest strikeout rate, lowest walk rate, just tough matchup. However, Atlanta at the same time, their offense just isn't clicking. It's not clicking like in years past, and I said this in the DMs to the other FSi MLB coaches. It's just that they just don't seem to be as elite and coming through. They're not living up to their price point on a daily basis as they were in years past. All right. Enough of that. Going past Pivetta, going down to Hicks, you can see the numbers here. Hicks versus Montgomery. Hicks obviously outweighs him. I also do have Schwellenbach over Montgomery. Now, Schwellenbach, he's only had one start, and it went fairly well. So let me pull it up here. Fairly well. 11.1 DK points, 5 strikeouts against a very low strikeout Washington team. It's fine. Schwellenbach, if you don't know much about him, he is I am going to just jam the strike zone. I am going to throw strikes. Not really going to walk anybody. I don't have like the greatest heat or like velocity, but I'm going to have movement on my pitches, and I'm going to try to get you in that way, in that regard. Okay. Boston, they struggle the most against pitchers who have high strikeout rates. Like, it's kind of like their issue. They're a top 7 or 6 or 7 strikeout rate team, but when they face pitchers who don't have that absolutely elite strikeout upside, they do quite a bit better. Boston, they have a lot of lefties in their lineup, or I guess I should say they did. They've lost Casas. Abreu, he went down. He sprained his ankle. Did you guys see the video? Sprained his ankle walking down into the dugout after an at-bat, and he's out for a bit, I would assume. So the Boston lineup isn't nearly as powerful with lefties as we've come to expect. But still, I think Schwellenbach, he's one of the higher prospects in the Atlanta organization, especially a pitching prospect in the Atlanta organization. And I'm going to have more interest in him than I would a guy like Montgomery, who's priced a little bit more. Severino, Rain, I'm not touching this game. Like, I really do think this game's going to be postponed. I just do. I'm not a meteorologist, but that's just my prediction based on what the phone app says, and it's like 80% chance of rain from noon until night. I don't know. But even if it's still going, I'm not going to have any interest in Severino. Corbin on the other side of that thing, absolutely not either. And then Mikolas, he's the only real cheap guy that I'm going to have a little bit of interest in. I do want to cover Ashby. You can see down here. Ashby's only had one start in the majors this year. Didn't go well at all. He has had major league experience in 2021 and 2022, where he was fairly decent. He had a 27% strikeout rate. Not bad. Like, he was certainly serviceable. Not so the case anymore. His numbers in AAA this season, he's pitched 43 innings over 6 starts, ERA almost 7, a whip of 1.98. Like, what is going on with him down in the minors? Now he's got to face off against this major league lineup. Not interested in him at all, and then just crazy amounts of walks. So, getting towards the bats, you can see pitching, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. But it means that there's a lot of really exciting bats that we can go ahead and target. Cincinnati in Coors, Colorado also in Coors, and then Philadelphia facing off against Ashby. I think these are going to be like your 3 teams that most people are going to be targeting. However, they are just downright expensive, especially you take in Cincinnati and you take in Philadelphia. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys at 5K or above, and then there's not even really value. 4.9, 4.8, 4.5, 4.4. Philadelphia is going to provide you a little bit more of value lower on down in their lineup. Sosa's a guy who's hitting over 300 this season. He's going to have a nice righty-lefty matchup. He typically bats like 7th in the lineup, which isn't super great, but I could definitely see him being a nice value play. If you are trying to go with some of these bigger, implied run total teams, Sosa definitely in play there. Dahl, he got a home run. The other day. Let's see. I'm going to put him in a lefty-lefty matchup. I don't know. I have to check the projected lineup on that one. But Philadelphia, regardless, they're going to have cheaper options in their lineup farther on down. But Cincinnati facing off against Hudson, just a crazy high hard hit rate. Coors, we all know what the Coors effect is. Yeah, I like Cincinnati. Colorado, they're going to give you a little bit more value. Oh my gosh. They're going to provide you with a little bit more value. But do I get excited about playing Colorado? No, their offense really doesn't excite me one bit. But they are facing off against Ashcraft. Ashcraft isn't really striking out anybody. He's going to have the second highest hard hit rate on the entire slate. So they're not really cheap. I probably shouldn't even put them in this cheap category now I'm thinking about it, because looking at their salaries, well, only 4 above 4.3. It's a lot better than Cincinnati and Philadelphia. But regardless, Colorado, if you need another cheap team, San Francisco is going to be right in there. I'm not going to talk too much about the Mets in Washington because, again, I think that's going to be postponed. Going into the GPP, I think Houston and Boston. I really wish Boston had Abreu, but still, they still got Devers. They still have a lot of other big bats that could get to Schwammenbach because, again, he's a guy who's just going to be jamming the strike zone. He's not going to walk a whole lot of guys, and maybe he gets unlucky with the BABIP, and Washington absolutely goes off. Houston, on the other GPP side of things, it's more so you're trying to play the ownership, I guess. With how expensive the top bats are that we want to be jamming into our lineups and the lack of superstar pitching, it would not shock me if Mikolas gets a little bit more run in terms of ownership than he should. Not a super great pitcher. Houston, their offense has been very, underwhelming throughout the course of the year. Tucker, he's day-to-day. Pay attention to that. He fouled a ball off of his shin. He went down pretty quickly. He's day-to-day. Monitor that. But because Houston's offense has struggled throughout the course of the season, their salaries have collapsed, essentially. Seeing Alvarez at $5K, shocking. Only 3 guys, healthy guys, over $4K for a Houston lineup is shocking. I still don't really believe it, but it has happened, and they've kind of been disappointing. So if it does appear that Mikolas is seeing quite a bit of traction, just as a salary relief, so you can get those top bats, I'm gonna have a lot more interest in Houston. However, on the flip side of things, I could see Houston being kind of a popular batting choice or a batting stack if it appears that Mikolas isn't seeing a whole lot of ownership. You go with them because they're affordable, they're cheap. They could have some one-offs that you could go to if you are going in that direction. San Francisco, they're the other cheap team that I would take. Montgomery doesn't strike anybody out. What's his strikeout rate? 14%. Oof. That's really, really bad. Third highest xFIP over anybody. Doesn't allow a lot of hard contact, but I think that San Francisco is going to have enough right-handed power bats in their lineup to have quite a bit of interest in them. Can I just mention how Bailey is still just far too cheap? 3.3K. This guy needs to be way more than 3.3K. Hey, maybe this is another one-off value guy that you go to. So you go with Bailey, you go with Sosa. There's 2 guys who are under 3.7K who you could throw into your lineups if we are going a little bit more expensive. So that's kind of where this slate breaks down. It's going to be really intriguing because pitching is so devoid, but salary is a thing. We're playing DFS. So good luck in your contest. Hopefully this was able to steer you kind of in the right direction and get your brain thinking about what you want to do in terms of trying to predict ownerships and where they're going to go. But frankly, I don't know where they're going to go. But I feel like I gave a good representation of where my thoughts land. So thanks for watching. As always, please hit that subscribe button. It really does help us out. We are approaching 5,000, and we're going to have another video out for the main slate. That's happening later tonight or tomorrow night. I'm recording this the night before. So whenever you're watching this, Wednesday night, we'll have that video out. Probably not until later on Wednesday morning. So good luck. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.